Hi, Neil here from Portainer. Today I'm going to give you a walkthrough of a capability we recently introduced in Portainer 2.26, which is an integration with Omni, a SaaS platform from Sidero Labs that allows you to deploy, configure and manage Talos Kubernetes clusters. So before you get started, the first thing you need to do is actually get yourself an Omni account from Sidero. And so if you go to the siderolabs.com website, there is a button here, Try Omni. You can fill in this form and you'll create yourself an Omni domain, which you will then use to deploy and manage your self-hosted, on-prem or cloud, but self-hosted Kubernetes clusters. So go and register for an Omni account and then come back to this video and we'll continue. Okay, so we have the Omni account, Portainer demos defined. I am logged in as the primary user, which is just my email address here, but there is nothing configured. There's no machines, there's no clusters, it's just a brand new blank environment. So there are two things we need to do, and the order of which doesn't really matter, so we'll just start with the obvious one first, which is downloading the installation media. So if you want to bare metal provision remote servers, either physical servers or virtual machines or cloud VMs, the first thing you need to do is actually be able to boot those machines from some installation media. In this case, it's the equivalency of a Linux Live CD that boots a Sidero agent that will beacon back to your specified Omni instance and announce the machine's presence for configuration. And so when you click download installation media, it will actually build you custom media with the agent configured to beacon back to this API endpoint. So we want to download the installation media. In my case, I'm going to choose a more recent version of Talos, so 1.91. And because I'm going to be provisioning virtual machines in a Proxmox environment, I'm just going to come down and say ISO environment. So just boot an ISO. And I click download, and this is going to generate and download the ISO file for me and allow me to save this on my machine. Okay, that has happened, and I'm just going to save it. You'll see here the file name is Metal AMD64 Omni Portainer Demos and the version of Talos OS. So I'm going to save it, and that is done. Now the next thing we need is a service account that will allow Portainer to talk to this Omni instance. So if we go to settings, service accounts, create service account, and we can just give it a name. In this case it's going to be Portainer demo. It's going to last for a year, and we need the role admin and create account. Now you can basically copy this account, but when we'll do so, and then we will put this directly into the Portainer instance where we're going to start configuring things. So here I have a Portainer instance. This happens to be running on a virtual machine up in the cloud, but obviously you can run Portainer anywhere you like, on your laptop, in your data center, and virtual machines, doesn't matter, because Portainer is fully self-hosted. In this case I have just a single virtual machine with a CPU and 2 gig of RAM running in the cloud. It's running Docker and it's running this Portainer instance here and nothing else. There are no other environments available to me. I'm logged in as the initial admin account for this Portainer deployment, but other than that this is a completely vanilla Portainer deployment. Again, it's Portainer Business Edition here. So if we go to settings, shared credentials, and we want to add credentials, so we say add credentials for Sidero Omni, and so let's just call this demo environment. The service account we're going to paste in here, and then for the endpoint URL, if you come back to your instance over here and copy this URL up here all the way to Omni, and just go copy, come back to Portainer, paste in the URL and click add credentials, and so that's going to add the credentials for that particular Omni instance. If you have more than one Omni instance, including self-hosted Omni instances, you can add credentials as many times as you need. Each of them will be given a unique name, so you can alternate between them. So now if we come back here again and we say, well look, let's actually go into an environment and create an environment. So we go to environments here, We want to add an environment. We want to create a Kubernetes cluster, and we want Talos Kubernetes. Now at the moment we have no machines defined. If I come back to Sidero again, go to machines, there's no machines. So if I go to Portainer here and say control plane, there's no machines available. But let's give this thing a name anyway, so let's just call it demo cluster. You see here we have the URL of the Portainer instance. This is really important because when we create the Talos cluster, we deploy the Portainer Edge agent, and because the Edge agent is an outside-in connection mechanism, the cluster, the Talos cluster that is deployed in your environment has to be able to reach back to your Portainer instance. So your Portainer instance needs to expose port 9443 and port 8000, so the remote copy of the Portainer agent can connect back to this cluster. But let's add some machines here. So I happen to have a Proxmox environment here. This is my home environment, but same. And I need to go into my local storage here. I need to go into my ISO files, and I need to upload the file that I just downloaded previously. So here is my ISO file. So I'm going to open it and upload it. So that's uploaded the file just nicely there available. And let's create a virtual machine. So if I say create virtual machine, and let's just call this demo 1. Next we'll choose the ISO. So this happens to be the Portainer demos ISO. That's what we need. So next, 32 gig disk is perfectly fine. Let's give it 2 CPUs and 4096 megs of memory. Keep the networking the same, and we'll start it. Finish. And whilst we're there, we may as well create the next one. So we'll create again. So it's going to be demo 2. Same ISO. Next, 32 gig again. 2. 4096, and start again. Finish. So now we have 2 machines, demo 1 and demo 2. If I click on demo 1 here and open a console, you'll see here that this machine has obtained a DHCP IP address of .9. There's no host name defined for this virtual machine, and it's been given a UUID of 115. And you see here that this is being configured to beacon back to Portainer demos, and it's just gone green with a tick. So this booted machine is now able to talk to this Omni instance and is being advertised as this UUID. If I go to Omni and now click on machines, you'll see here is 115, and in fact here is the other one, CE7, come online. So these 2 machines are now available to be used. And just to be sure, CE7, go back to here, look at demo 2, and the UUID is CE7. So both of these machines are now ready to be configured. Again, one of them is being DHCP.9 and one of them is DHCP.13. Obviously you don't want to use DHCP in production, and we'll change that later on. Also, you never want to have just no host name. So we go back to the Portainer instance again, and now we scroll down and we say, okay, what Talos version do we want? Well, we downloaded the ISO file for 1.91, so let's just click on that. There's a Kubernetes version. What version do we want? Do we want the absolute latest? Let's just go down to 1.32 so we can show an upgrade procedure later. And now we want to select the control plane, so we can just click it, and here we go. These are the 2 machines that we just onboarded. Now if you can't remember, you can come back and see demo 1, which we want to be the control plane. That is UUID 115. So come back here again and say, okay, control plane we want to be 115, and we want the worker to be CE7. But we need to now configure them. So you can click on the little gear icon here, and I want to configure this one. And I actually want to give it a host name of demo 1. My DNS is 192.168.100.1. And I want to give it an IP address. I don't want to use this DHCP address. Now in my case here, it's machine ID 128, which means that it is IP address 228. So I can take this away, and I can say 192.168.100.228. /24, create it, and done. And then the worker pool, I want to configure that one as well. This one is going to be demo 2.1, and this one over here is 229. So let's say 192.168.100.229/24. Create this one again. Then the gateway's right. Click done, and now we can go and configure this cluster. Now we just simply click provision environment if we're finished with our configurations, which we are. And so this is now going to talk to Omni. Request Omni goes and configures the cluster. So cluster provisioning is started. And if you want to add more environments, you can do so and then click provision again. If you're just adding one, as we are for now, you can just click close to watch progress. So you can see here provisioning the Omni cluster. Now we can actually switch to Omni to watch this happening in real time. And we can click on clusters, and now you'll see there's a demo cluster. There's 2 nodes and they are currently installing. We can even switch back to Proxmox and we can watch the screen as this changes. So this IP address has already changed from DHCP to static, and the cluster has been defined as demo cluster, which is the name that we gave it, and eventually the host name will change. Once it restarts and continues the install, the host name will change to demo 1 as well. Demo 2, let's see the status of that one. It has also changed its IP address, and in fact this one's host name is already changed. Demo cluster again, it's coming online. Now you can ignore all these failure messages, by the way, while it's installing. It's just constantly checking the state of things as it's building. Eventually it'll all come healthy and the error message will stop. But for now we'll just wait for this to finish installing. Okay, these nodes are running and the cluster looks healthy. Let's just switch back to here. See, demo 1 is now here, machine is running and ready. If I switch to Portainer, yep, it's just switched and we now have it available inside Portainer here. And you can see here's the demo cluster. Talos is up 1.91 and control plane and API is ready. And if I click on this one, click cluster, I can see the 2 virtual machines, the 2 nodes with their 2 fixed IPs that we set, and they're configured as a control plane and a worker. You can see the Kubernetes version and Talos version that's running, and if I want I can click to upgrade the version of Talos and upgrade the version of Kubernetes. I think what we'll do is actually add another node to the cluster, so we have 2 workers, and then we'll do a Talos upgrade. So let's just do that now. We need to come back into Proxmox. We want to create a new virtual machine, and this one is going to be demo 3. And same ISO into cores 4096 and start. And this machine will now boot and make itself available. Again, we still only have 2 machines. Both of these are already added to the cluster, so they're not actually available for provisioning, so we need to wait for the 3rd node to come up, and then we can add another worker or control plane to this environment. So let's just wait for this to boot. We'll click on demo 3. So it's booting now. We just have to wait for it to appear inside here, so we'll just wait. And there we go, it's now showing, and so you can see the machine's UUID. We can see that it's available and connected, and is currently not allocated. So we can go into Portainer and I can say I want to add a node. I want to add this new machine to the worker pool. Again, I want to configure it, override. This one's going to be demo 3. 68.100.1 as its name server, and this one, if I come back, is now 130, so 230, so 192.168.100.230/24. create, gateway is right, done, add nodes. And again, this is now going to talk to Omni, and the 3rd node will be added. I can now switch back here, click on clusters, and you'll see now there's 2 of 3, and we're now installing the next one, and we can sit and watch this guy as well if we want, but this thing has already had its IP address changed. The host name and everything else will change through the installation process, so let's just wait. Okay, we're looking better. The host name's changed, the Portainer Sidero link is up. Let's just go back to here. It's still booting as this thing is concerned. Here we go, so now we're running. If I switch back to Portainer, oh, there we go. Demo 3 as a worker has already become available. They're all running version 1.32 here, and if we want, we can actually click on this little button here to get the machine logs. This is actually the same as if you got the console logs, as if you're connected via SSH, so we can see the logs of the machine if we needed to, but we're all good. So let's just actually go and upgrade the version of Talos. So let's go from 1.91 to 1.92 and say upgrade Talos version, confirm. And this is now going to schedule and complete the Talos upgrade. So let's just switch back to here, and we should watch these things go through and upgrade Talos. Now we can click here and we should be able to watch them. Talos version 1.91, so we should wait, and these things will eventually be reconfigured with Talos 1.92. So let's just wait. And as you can see here, it is upgrading, so it's not ready, we're upgrading. Click on the console screen, you can see here we are stopping all pods. We are now cluster unhealthy, and we're going to, now again, this is a single node cluster, by the way, so you wouldn't necessarily do this live in a single node cluster because you've now lost cluster high availability or clusterability, but in this case we're running through the upgrades, and eventually this will come through and run the latest version of Talos. So let's just keep waiting. As you can see, demo 1 has completed, and we're now onto node demo 2. We should be able to click on this now and see. There you go, demo 1 is already at 1.9.2 Talos version. So we'll just wait for all 3 to complete. Okay, all 3 of those have upgraded. Go back to Portainer, and yep, all 3 of those have now been upgraded. So Talos version 1.92 is current. Now let's say we want to upgrade Kubernetes 2, we can say we want to upgrade to 1.32.1, upgrade version, confirm, and this will do the same thing. It will go through and schedule an upgrade of the Kubernetes version. And so again, we just need to wait for this to happen. And as you can see, it's going to go through and pre-pull the images required on the nodes to ensure that downtime is minimized. Again, this does a rolling upgrade like the Talos upgrade just did. It'll do a rolling upgrade on the cluster, so it's not going to pull and do all 3 nodes concurrently. So let's just wait for this thing to finish. Just wait here, see, it's waiting for the cluster. So demo 1 is upgrading at the moment, so upgrading the API server. Okay, the cluster upgrade is finished. You can see we're now on the latest version of Talos and the latest version of Kubernetes. You can see here we're already at 1.32.1 as the cluster version. Now, if you needed to, by the way, you can select a node and you can remove a node here. And when you hit this, this will actually go through and uninstall Talos on that node and return that node to a ready and available condition, which you can then re-add. So if you ever make a mistake in the provisioning, don't worry, let it complete, delete the node, and then you can re-add the node. So it'll always return the node to a pristine condition if the node is actually online and reachable from Omni. So you can see here we've got across the 3 nodes of the cluster, there's basically 1 gig of RAM has been used to run the Talos environment. So we still have quite a bit of RAM available, and there's near 0 CPU used across the cluster. So and again, you can click on this thing here to see the machine logs as you need, and otherwise you've got the cluster configured and ready to go. So now you're just back into normal Portainer configurations where you can come and assign access controls. So here you can say manage access, and we can actually start to, we don't have any users here, but you can create users and we can assign users RBAC roles, and we'll take care of the RBAC roles and role bindings against the cluster. You can click on namespaces, you can create a namespace, you can see the applications. In this case we can show system, so you can see what's actually running in the environment. We can come into resources. You can see if there's any cron jobs or jobs running. You can see the service accounts that are defined in the cluster. And really you can just start to define, configure and use the cluster. So you can do things like installing OPA Gatekeeper in the cluster even if you want. So we're all ready to go with this environment, when we can add as many of these remotely managed Talos Kubernetes clusters as you like. So this is the new feature in Portainer 2.26. That is an STS release. This will be also in Portainer 2.27, which will be the next LTS release available very soon. So this is pretty nice because this gives you now a complete end-to-end integrated solution through Portainer with Sidero. And again, Portainer can OEM the licenses, so you can purchase the licensed edition of Portainer Business from Portainer, and we can also bundle in and include licenses for Omni and therefore support for Talos Kubernetes underneath the covers as well. So if you want to speak to somebody, hit Talk Sales on the website and we'll be in touch with you. But otherwise, have a play with this feature and let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.